Andres Today we're watching John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. So I know we're watching the other show, which is like the tapes or something. But listen, when I tell you guys we are gonna go deep and dive into these serial killers and all these other true crime content, I'm saying we're deep and dive. Hair flip. Yes, I am really excited to get into this. I really wanted to know more about this person, so some of this information might overlap with the other show that we're watching, with John Wayne Gacy, Mr. Clown. We're gonna be watching Mr. Clown, and I really want to know a lot. So I'm happy to bring you guys along with me. You guys are fierce, and I'm ready to get into this, guys. As always, this is going to be a full reaction for my entire platform here on the YouTube platform, as well as my other platform, Patreon. So guys, please sign up to one of those platforms and help support the channel today. Also, just so you guys know, something new, something exciting, down below on each of my videos, you guys will be able to find my store. Yes, I have a store. I'm designing clothes, masks, etc., etc. I'm gonna get back into designing more products, but I did make some face masks. A lot of people who are new to this channel, they don't even know how this channel started, so I'm just gonna like say it really quickly. About 2 years ago, my aunt, who was like my best friend, she passed away from the C word. I don't know if we're allowed to say it on YouTube. The pandemic. She got it, and she passed away. That was my best friend. Loved her, and she actually, I've been an actor my entire life. She actually was an actress as well. Just a really quick story. And she actually went to school, I think college, with Eddie Murphy. So she told me about, get into YouTube, start doing YouTube. I didn't want to do YouTube at all. And she was like, get into YouTube and start doing it. Start going out and branching off. I was doing already auditions and doing TVs and commercials, trying to get into that. But I started doing YouTube after she passed away. And then I started to do designing. So my first designs ever was face mask and stuff like that. So I do have, and then I have a slogan on one of my masks, and my main mask that I have is a lion with the crown on it, and has a saying which I cannot remember for the life of me. I actually have a poster, and then I also had a mask of the Black Panther because I loved Black Panther, still do, and I love Chadwick Boseman. So I had this incorporated in a lot of stuff that I was doing. So I was really focusing on designing and making clothes and content. So if you guys want to check out those stuff, you can find it down below. I also think it's like 20% discount by putting in the code that I have provided there. I think it's Andres0720. I'm not really sure. But definitely check out the store, guys. If you see something that you like, feel free. Be happy. Purchase it. Okay, now we're done. I gave you a little history lesson. I just always have to mention my aunt when I can because I love her so much. Now we're gonna get into this creepy crawler, Mr. Clown, and we're going to dig deeper. Is that what I'm looking for? The reason why I don't want to say this is dig deeper, deep dive. I just feel like because he's such a murderer, like I don't even want to do any of that. So let's get into this episode, guys. You're probably like, what the f is he talking about? So let me give you that intro, y'all. With that being said, let's jump into John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise, and find out exactly what this show has got to give.
People have said that you have given them interviews in your...
Well, that's hogwash.
Yeah.
That's strictly hogwash. Misquoted constantly, saying that I said this and I said that, and it's not happening.
This is the first time you're speaking publicly about your case.
Right. You created this fantasy monster. I mentioned it's been going on for the last 12 years. They were looking for sensationalism, and they were looking for the monster. I'm a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage. I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Work schedule, you know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted. Police digging under a house in Des Plaines, Illinois, found 4 more bodies. John Wayne Gacy is suspected of having killed as many as 32 teenage boys.
Investigators know there are bodies or parts of bodies still to be dug out of this muddy crawl space.
He was well respected in his community. He was active in local politics and even dressed up as a clown to entertain children. December 1978, the disappearance of a 15-year-old boy led police to Gacy's suburban Chicago home. Found 29 bodies buried in shallow graves under his home and near it. 4 bodies in nearby stream.
1978, New York City?
Getting ready to do my laundry and was watching TV.
Today, police found 4 more bodies. Some of John Gacy's neighbors said all of this is like a nightmare.
I probably first wrote to him in '83 and finally responded to one of my letters. We started corresponding and talking on the phone. Recording my phone calls with Gacy simply because I couldn't take notes very fast.
This call?
Yeah, what are you doing up so early? I've jumped up 25 pounds.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
No.
What are you eating?
January of 1989, I flew into St. Louis, Menard Correctional Facility, which is in the very southern tip of Illinois, every 3 months for 3 days at a time for 6 years.
Well, they need to arrest him because he's crazy too.
Interview. Of course, the Department of Corrections didn't want that at all. Gacy said, "Oh, well, you have to talk to my good friend who works at the FBI."
Bob Ressler helped establish the FBI's behavioral unit that investigates serial killers.
Enjoys power and dominance over other people. These are some of the base criteria for serial killer.
He basically coined the phrase serial killer. The FBI Academy reached out to many serial killers to do interviews, kind of to educate students. Contacted Bob.
Yes, good morning. This is Craig Bowley for Robert Ressler.
John had wrote me a letter saying that you would be in contact. I guess you're doing some sort of documentary.
Would you be interested in doing an interview? Because that may be the way the Department of Corrections will say yes.
If we have to, we could do it in 2 days, I think.
So that's how it started. Ressler and Gacy taped their interview in the morning. Must have been a big deal for them to bring John from one secure area to another. Like, you know, a scene from A Christmas Carol, dragging the chains, walking through.
This is very weird.
We used the warden's office. He's very generous.
If I'm down with my head, does that hurt your sound quality?
No, it's okay. Just try not to move around too much.
And I said, so can we take the handcuffs off? The warden looks at the guard looks at the warden, and they go, yeah, why not? Anything that starts to get slow or dull, cut to his hands. See a tell there somewhere.
We'll go into the lead-in as you know, you were at.
That's the way I'd like to start, and I'd like to kind of go
What do you got there? Let's see your list.
I just like to go through the generalities.
John is a master manipulator. He comes across so damn normal.
We'll watch the language.
Yeah, he's gonna try.
I call it as I see it. Some people can't understand that.
We're learning so much now that we would never have known at the time. This should be the definitive story, and not just about Gacy, but it's about the families that were affected.
All right, so whenever the hell they're ready.
Gacy's story broke. I was a general assignment reporter and a weekend anchor. Chicago was a dream job for me. And if you go back to the days of the front page, Chicago was the epicenter of great news coverage. I remember the moment very, very well. Picked up the phone, and it was the person who would become a major source for this story to 8213 West Somerdale right away. Again, one of the most incredible stories I've ever covered. 213 West Somerdale is in a neighborhood called Norwood Park Township. I've been given very, very sketchy information about what I was about to walk into. Murders in Chicago, but there were more drug-related murders, gang-related murders. The neighborhood wasn't one you usually associated with violence. December in Chicago is not fun for anybody. And this was a cold December. Now, until the day I die, I will be able to remember. When I got to the scene, I believe I was the only reporter there. The first name to surface was Rob Peast. He was the trigger to the whole investigation.
Kozenzak and his fellow detectives on the Des Plaines police force weren't out to make history.
I was looking through the police reports on December 12th. I noticed the missing persons case report. There was something in this case that we should look at closer.
Peast, 15-year-old boy from Des Plaines, had gone missing under unusual circumstances. Mother had come to his place of employment
which was a pharmacy in Des Plaines. He used to come out and spoke with his mom and said, hey, listen, I'll be done in a few minutes. I've got this contractor that I want to talk to. So if you don't mind, I'll just be a few minutes. I'm going to go talk to this guy and I'll be right back.
I told him there'd be no problem, that I'd wait for him. And that was the last I saw of him.
After Rob didn't show up, Mr. and Mrs. Peast searched all around Des Plaines, frantically looking for him.
The Peast family launched a full court press into the disappearance of a child.
We knew something was wrong. So from there we went to the police.
Call of a missing person, and they most likely have run away previously. It was totally different with Rob Peast. I mean, he was like a really good kid.
I pause this because I don't know if at the end I'm going to remember to say this, but in the other show that we're watching together, they said that Rob, this Pierce person, when he was working, the lady at the cash register asked him she could borrow his blue coat. He gave her the blue coat. This construction guy came in, who was John Wayne Gacy, and he was looking around. I guess he was trying to do look for whatever he was looking for inside this building, because he was going to do a project on this building, right? Then he ended up leaving. Then Robert, I think they just said his name was, he asked for his coat back and then went and said, I'm just going to go ask him if he had the job, the construction owner. So he went outside. The cashier didn't know nothing. The mob then came asking for him because it was her, she was going to pick him up after work. It was her birthday. And the cashier lady told her, yeah, he went outside and told the construction worker. She says, okay, just let him know I'll be back later on to pick him up. She apparently came back, and then that's when she says, oh no, she didn't, she called and said, oh, did you, have you seen my son or something like that, right? And then she said, no, I have never seen him. That was at 10 o'clock. So this is very different, because this is saying that he went up to the mother and talked to the mother and said all of this stuff. This cashier lady is nowhere to be found in here. Very interesting. Now let us continue.
The desk officer overheard the mother make a statement or who the contractor guy was.
The contractor that was there was a gentleman by the name of John Gacy.
Inside of 3 years, PDM, which is painting, decorating, and maintenance, was doing $1 million a year. And then I owned PDM Contractors Corporation. I owned PDM Plumbing, PDM Concrete, and PDM Decorating. We were doing strictly drugstores.
Mm-hmm. John was successful in his, remodeling business. He hired teenagers to do the work.
He was a decent boss. He'd like to joke around. I was working there. I think there was about 4 or 5 of us that were working for him. 16, which was how old I was, up to about 19 or 20. I think he utilized young boys or adolescent boys in his business because, yes, they were cheaper. He was always looking for inexpensive labor. And, young boys provided that. Looking back, yes, I should have been much more unnerved and afraid, but I wasn't. Can put on 2 different fronts. Because obviously he was a monster.
The investigators started out, they learned from the Peast family that Rob was going to go talk to John Gacy.
Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. We didn't know what happened to him. If there was any way for him to come home, he would have. So we knew something really had happened.
Who else knew about this? Did the guy do anything before? Is there a police record?
He gave his name as John Wayne Gacy and stated that he didn't know anything about any missing kid. We were trying to do some background record checks, but in 1978, it's not like it is today, a file called the Alpha file. Based on what you told them, search these files by hand. The guy's on parole to Chicago. He was convicted of sodomy of a young boy.
He had been arrested in Iowa for sexually molesting a young boy.
Put together a couple of detectives later that evening and went looking for Gacy.
They did not search the house at that time or look through the house?
No. They're claiming that they came to the front door of the house and knocked on the door and that I hid from them. There's no way I could have heard them. I was way in the back of the house, in the rec room, on the telephone. My sister, in regards to a death in our family, told her that I would call her back. Got up, went to the door, and he introduced himself as cousin Zach. Come in and talked to me about Robert Peast.
Just pushed him a little He said, we
Why
need
is
you to
this
come
camera
to the police
moving?
station, give
Who's
us a
filming him?
witness.
I mean to come down to the police station. Okay, well, I didn't have time because I was doing work for the county.
He attempted to flee from the area, running to his car. Based on Gacy's actions, trying to run from us, I was going to try to get a search warrant.
They had asked me to come in and give me an account of my whereabouts.
We didn't want him to leave until we got the search warrant. Analyzed him and figured out this guy was a blowhard and had a big ego, so I just started feeding it. He was the go-to guy in this neighborhood, and I would ask him, about people he knew, and he was just going nuts, telling me all about this, so there was no problem keeping him there.
They held me there for 9 hours, and while holding me there for 9 hours, they executed a search warrant. The first search warrant looking for Robert Peace. It was written up to be looking for Robert Peace, and Robert Peace wasn't there.
The location of his residence was significant because he lived a stone's throw away from the Nissan pharmacy.
Attempt to find Rob Peace alive, and we didn't find that.
Things that really didn't belong there, such as a class ring with the initials of somebody that was not John Wayne Gacy.
Shackles, and they also found up in the attic under some insulation 2 books. The other book was Pretty Boys Must Die. Trash can in the kitchen, they found a film receipt that originated from Nissan Pharmacy where Rob Peace did work.
We found driver's license from 2 other individuals, I think to lead us to Robert Peace, so we had to leave the house.
He had been married in Iowa. He had 2 children.
Checking missing persons reports from the area in a specific age. All other people that had worked for him were missing.
Find out that the driver's licenses that were found in his house seemingly were related to missing persons.
We're able to find out this ring belonged to a fellow by the name of John Zick is missing. Say, what in God's name are we sitting on top of?
We saw that Gacy had a long record. They say where there's smoke, there was fire. In this case, there was a blaze out of control.
I think they did look the other way many times, but the fact that he got away with it for so long, there's something faulty with the system.
Stays into it that Rob Peace might have been the victim of a homicide.
Very urgent that we keep an eye on Gacy. No matter what, let's not lose him.
Working 12-hour shifts that were supposed to be tailing him.
Rob Peace, the worst case scenario is that he's been killed, and there's a possibility that there's more than one victim.
We're not necessarily given any instructions. We're just told to watch Gacy.
I had made a statement to the police department, and from that date forward, they had me under surveillance. They had trouble keeping up with me, so I used to go out to the car in the morning and tell them where I was going, so in case they got lost. So in essence, I was all over the place. But this was like Keystone Cops trying to follow me around.
Parked in the front of Gacy's house, and the other one right on the corner because if Gacy wanted to go out the back most of the night at Gacy's house. But then, he started going places that night.
We relieved the surveillance team about midnight over at a place called the Moose Lodge in Des Plaines. It'd be a lot easier if we would just go inside. He already knows that we're here. A short time later, the waitress approaches us with 2 beers. And says, these beers on the gentleman over there, pointing to Gacy. He's past us and he says, hey, would you guys like to go to breakfast somewhere?
Right around the corner was a place called the Pot and Pan Restaurant, talking back and forth. He said, why don't you guys come over and sit down with me? So we went into a public place. We would go in there with him.
He told us why he hired young kids. I've hired a guy that's been around the block a few times. It's hard for me to train or hire these young kids that don't have any experience. I can train them right from the start how to do it the way I want it done.
All his contacts that he had in the city of Chicago, he had a lot of friends out of the Chicago Police Department. He never really said, oh, well, they've done this for me. It's more like planting a seed that if he needs help, he knows where to go to get it.
Because of his political connections, John felt he had Teflon coating. He could get away with anything.
Mayor was in charge, and he was at the top rung on the ladder. But as it filtered down, you had all these workers.
Look at that outfit.
Gacy was a politician. He told local Democratic officials that he wanted to run for office someday.
John Wayne Gacy was also Pogo the Clown, who loved to make kids laugh. A Democratic Party precinct worker with political connections. His neighbors knew him as Johnny.
Gacy would do anything he could to ingratiate himself with the power structure. He had his picture taken with all these dignitaries.
Rosalind Carter was in Chicago last May. Gacy also attended the private reception where this picture of him meeting the First Lady was taken, even though he was convicted of a sex offense in 1968.
This is Rosalind Carter. Well, the Secret Service tries to cover it up and said, well, we don't know how he got into the picture. The Secret Service wanted to cover up and make it sound like that I had no business there. I was cleared, and I was with the Secret Service at the time. And then for 3 years in a row, I had set up the parades to run. Big feat getting 20,000 Polish people to go in one direction at one time.
He used the aura of being politically connected to deceive people. He manipulated public officials to think he was just a guy who was on the make politically.
Very likable. Mike and I are like, we better kind of, keep our guard up with this guy. 'Cause I don't know if you guys are following me because of this missing person that they were asking about, but I have nothing to do with this kid. He seemed real friendly, and then all of a sudden he'd be aggravated. Usual look on his face, like almost like a beaten man. Don't knock it off, we're going to have to arrest you for, reckless driving or something like that. And then all of a sudden he'd be fine.
They became suspicious when 15-year-old Robert Peast disappeared after he allegedly was last seen with Gacy.
Viewing Michael Rossi and David Cram.
Rossi and David Cram, they did odd jobs for him, and helping him out on construction jobs.
Telling the investigators that they had been in the crawl space and been ordered to dig some trenches.
The reason for these trenches were to make holes to put in drain pipe.
There's an odor down in the crawl space, and Gacy has always put it off to a sewage issue. Rossi and Cram, they were told to throw lime down to cover the smell.
When it rained, the rain would come down from both ends and would flood from one house to the other. I asked a landscaper, I said, what do you do for that sour odor of clay? And he said, spread white lime. That's why the lime was spread in the crawl space.
How much lime was spread down there eventually?
I think 700 or 800 pounds of it.
You're looking for a freshly dug grave, you're going to look for a mound of dirt. Well, there was no mounds of dirt there, so we didn't look any further.
Maybe he's got a dead body down there.
What is strange is you had 20 trained officers that came into that house all around. There was no mounds of dirt, there was no odor, there was no nothing.
The team is starting to put a little bit of pressure on Gacy, and he seems very agitated. When we first started the surveillance, Gacy seemed to be able to operate like on 3 or 4 hours sleep, becoming more and more worried. He was getting virtually no sleep. He was just transformed from this effervescent guy to a beaten man.
The main obstacle was there was already a search warrant that had been executed, so we needed fresh probable cause. Evidence found in the Gacy house was a photo slip, the name of a young lady named Kim Byers, who worked at the drugstore.
Kim Byers was going to step outside and have a break, and she borrowed Rob P's coat, was having the film process, got a receipt, put the receipt in the pocket, same receipt that we found in Gacy's trash. So that tied Peast to Gacy's house.
They were doing surveillance of Gacy. It was very, very cold that winter. C, who was full of hubris and arrogance, would sometimes invite them in.
Bob Schultz and Ron Robinson. They pretty much did the same things that we did this particular day. Gacy says to Schultz and Robinson, he says, hey, you guys want to have dinner at my place? Schultz says, hey, I got to go to the bathroom.
So Bob went into the bathroom, and what happened while he was in there, the heat kicked on.
When the heat kicks on, Schultz smells this horrific smell, equate to the county morgue.
I heard that. I said, I think we have probable cause. I went home, I had dinner with my grandmother, went back to my place, call from Assistant State's Attorney Mike Corkell, who told me, get your ass out of bed and over to the police station. Stench in there was overwhelming. Chiefs around their nose and mouth. Seeing what they put in body bags.
You're trying to figure out how could he take victim after victim from the same streets and not get caught? Is it someone was looking the other way? This man could have been stopped.
Oh my Lord. Well, so there was some inconsistencies only that dealt with the beginning of the story about that, how that boy was, Robert Pierce was abducted, I should say. I guess abducted. I don't know if he went there willingly and then he was murdered, or was he kidnapped. I'm not really sure what happened. But that the story that we heard in the other show was a little bit different than this. And I was paying attention very closely, but maybe I missed something. So definitely comment down below, guys, and what you guys feel, because we still have on the about the tapes. We have the tapes. We have what the lady said, and this was different. Maybe when I edit it, it's gonna sound different, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. But from what I'm hearing, it's just a little different. But regardless, I really do like this. Also, what was taking me out of this a couple times was whoever was filming one of the police officers and interviewing him, the camera was shaking like this. And I was like, who is holding the camera? They need somebody, one of them camera stands, and then film it like that way. Dear Peacock, bloop, I need you to get it together. But regardless, overall, this was pretty decent. I actually kind of was enjoying to learn more about this person or this show a little bit more than I liked the tapes. I felt like the tapes, there was so much information in one episode that I was like, oh my god, what's happening? But this one is kind of like I got the same stuff, and a little bit more, it seems, spread out. So that's why I kind of like this a little bit more. And maybe because they were talking slower too, because child, it's, I'm working all day. I need something, talk a little slower. But regardless, it's very interesting. I really can't wait until we get into other episodes. I'm hoping that we get more of his story from the first victims and a little bit more in depth. I think that we're going to, because there's, I don't know how many, I think there's 10 episodes. So I just want more of the starting from the very first person, like we did with Dahmer, just to understand like what is happening, what is going on with this guy. I hope we're not just going to go into case, the trial and stuff like that. I want to learn more. So regardless, you guys are going to be here with me on the journey. So congratulations. With that being said, guys, if you see this reaction and realize you are not subscribed, hit subscribe, and also please like and share this content because it is wonders for this channel. And I'll see you all next time on Andres